Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, my name is Donna. Thank you so much for clicking on my video today. Today I am doing my next installment in my Palette Roulette series, and we're going to talk a little bit about the ABH Norvina palette. So happy to have you guys here. My lighting looks crazy right now, and I am wearing a sweatshirt because it is snowing outside like crazy, and I don't know why it's doing that, except for that maybe because it's still winter and I not really hugely fond of the snow. So let's jump in. Today we're going to be talking about the ABH Norvina palette. This is the palette that my Will Decide app chose last week for my Palette Roulette series. For those of you unfamiliar with this series, I use an app to choose a palette that I will be using for the entirety of the week. I got this idea from Danny from her channel, Danibo, and that's all linked down in my description box. She did a palette a week series in which she used it as a decluttering series. My channel is just basically using it to use my palettes. I got to a point where I had so many palettes that I was bringing so many of them in all at once that I forgot to use palettes that I had purchased. So I have been using this series to get more familiar with my palettes. Norvina was a palette that when I first saw it, I was like, yes, I have to have that palette. It's going to be all purple. It's going to be beautiful. And then I saw pictures and I was just not hugely impressed anymore, but I still wanted it because it still called my name a little bit. This is the Norvina palette. It comes just like most other ABH palettes do these days with the, you know, like felt, I guess, or I don't even know what this material is. It's kind of like, suede almost. It feels like velvet. There we go. Velvet. We're going to call it velvet. It's got a velvet case. It is velvet front and back. It is beautiful. It is a pretty thick-ish palette. It goes beautifully with its brothers and sisters over there in my collection. I really do love the packaging on this. And I love that Norvina puts packages out there, palettes out there that are all the same size and the same kind of like family, but at the same time it makes you feel like you have to have them, right? Because you cannot break up the family. You cannot do it. On the back, it does have all the information on the back that says it's a cruelty-free company. It does have an 18-month open jar, which means it is good for 18 months after you open this item up. It's got their emblem. It's got everything you need to know. This palette has 14 shadows, and each one of the shadows inside of this palette is 0.02 grams of product, which is slightly smaller than, say, a ColourPop shadow. For those of you who know ColourPop shadows, they're, you know, a good quarter size pan-ish, and they're a good size. This is about half of that, maybe even a little less. You open up the palette, it's got a nice size mirror. I just took the protector off of the mirror. The palette also comes with a brush. Each one of the ABH palettes has come with a brush. They're not my favorite brushes. They're dual-ended. I don't really particularly grab for dual-ended brushes, so, and I also don't like their dual-ended brush. The dual-ended brush that comes in most of the palettes, the blending side is a wee bit scratchy. This palette is made in the United States. The brush is made in China. So, with that being said, this is what the palette looks like. So we've got some pretty cool tones in there. We've got a few like warmer tones in there. We've got 7 metallic shades, 7 matte shades. We're going to talk a little bit about that because I don't really feel like they're all just matty in here. But I had fun with this palette this week. Even though it followed the Lila palette, which was an all purple palette, well, purples, pinks, you know, neutral tones. This is also purples, pinks, neutral tones, but this is more of a neutral tone palette than it is a purple pink palette in my opinion. I don't typically draw myself towards cooler tones. This does have a lot more cool tone shadows in it than what most of my palettes have, I believe. And I really didn't mind it. It was a good travel palette. I had to go out of town for a district meeting this last week, and it traveled well. The only shade that I don't think traveled very well is this one over here, and we'll talk a little bit about that shade in the swatches. So with that being said, let's get into the swatches. I do have them on my hand today. I think we're going to play this just fine. I do have all the mattes on this side and all the metallics on this one. So we're going to start with these mattes here. This first one here is called Base. It is a matte skin tone shadow. Like, I would say probably a cream shadow that, you know, it's just a matte cream shadow. I mean, there's nothing special about it. It does really well as a setting shade if you set your shadows. So the next one down is this one here. This is Soul. It's listed as a matte shade. I don't really find that it's wholly matte. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it does have a lot of sheeniness to it. Can you guys see that? Yeah, it does have a lot of sheeniness to it. I find it to be more of a satin color. It also is listed as, I can't remember what color, but it reminds me very much of a periwinkle color, not quite blue, not quite purple. The sheeniness of it does give it a little bit of a blue shift. This shadow also was pretty like raspy to the touch. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys. Maybe textured to the touch maybe makes more sense. I'm not really sure. Sorry, I am cutting off the whole bottom of my head here. I want to make sure you guys can see these swatches really well. The next one here is Incense. This is a matte shade. It is a like terracotta shade. I find it to be like that of maybe baby poo. But it is a beautiful shade. It is one I am wearing today all over the place in my eye look. It's a great transition shade. I love this shade. Actually, it's one of my favorites in the palette. The next one here is Love. It is also categorized as matte on the website and as a cool pink. I do find it to be a cool pink, but can you guys see that sheeniness to it? I kind of find it to be more of a satin color that also is a little bit scratchy and maybe feels a little raspy to the touch. But I also find that it kind of shifts a little bit purple-ish. So like, it's really weird to me that they have this listed as a matte because, I mean, while it is matte, it does have a little sheen to it that kind of lends purple. And maybe that's just because of the palette that it's in. This next color here is called Volatile. It is a matte dark brown. Again, another one of my favorite colors in the palette. I really enjoy it in a lot of my eye looks. This one here is called Eccentric. It is a matte like Dijon mustard color. Not like straight up mustard, because straight up mustard is like yellow. This one is definitely not yellow. It's kind of a burnt orange color, but also kind of a mustard color. I really dig it. I like this color. Passion is a deep garnet red color and probably one of my most used in the palette throughout this week. I used it in a lot of eye looks. I used it probably near every day and just to deepen up the outer corner or like put a little bit of emphasis into the crease. Today it is in my crease color, and I just find it creates such a depth to any eye look, and it is truly a matte. All right, on this hand we have all of our metallic shimmer colors. So this first one up here that you can barely see is Dreamer. So this Dreamer color is a metallic, like, it's labeled as a pink champagne. It does have a little bit of like a baby pinkiness to it, but not a lot. It's more of a champagne color. It is in my brow bone. I did wear it a lot as a brow bone. I also have it on as a highlight today. I find that it is a really pretty color in the highlights. The only thing about this color is that it is so creamy. It is like almost fall apart creamy. Like as soon as you touch anything into it, any brush or anything like that, it just leaves an impression. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you barely have to touch it and you get color, which is awesome, but it also kind of just dents the pan of shadow. I think that if I run out of any shadow first, it will be that one, because that one is just too moist for you to really go into it and get what you need out of it. Even to put it into my brow bone today, I had to go in, because you put your brush in and you tap it off, and when you look at your brush it seems like all the color is gone, and it's not. It's still there, but it's barely there. So then you have to go in again, and every time you put a brush into this shadow, you run the risk of putting your brush all the way through the shadow, if that makes any sense. It's just super moist. It's a super moist metallic shade. How many times can you say moist? The next shade here is this one. It is called Summer. It is a really super foiled bronzy golden color. Nice, beautiful bronzy golden topaz color. It is what is on my lid space today. I really dig it. It's a beautiful color. The next one here is called Wild Child. It is supposed to be a duochrome pink to purple, and I just don't find that it is very duochromy. If I'm being honest with you, it does have a little tiny bit of a shift, but not much. It does shift more if there is a purple with it, but I just don't find it to be very duochromy. The next one here is called Rose Gold, and it is fitting. It is definitely a metallic rose gold color. It is a beautiful color. This one here is called Celestial. It is a beautiful pink or purple color that is listed as a duochrome violet to purple. I really wouldn't consider two tones of the same family a duochrome color, because you cannot, I mean, you really can't tell if there's a shift because they're the same family of color. So to me, it's just a metallic purple shade, and it is a beautiful shade. I love it, don't get me wrong, but there isn't very much of a shift to this color. The next one is right here, and it is called Dazzling. It is a metallic cool tone bronze. I think this one shifts more purple than Celestial does, which is weird in my opinion, because it's not slated as a duochrome color, but it does have kind of a lavender hint in there. This last one here is called Drama. This is also a duochrome. It is a duochrome bronze to purple. I don't know if you guys can see that. It looks very black on your eyes. It's not a bad color, not a bad palette. I really enjoyed having this palette for this week. I had a lot of fun with it. I will scoot over here so I can put some looks over here for you. I love ABH shadows. I don't have any problem with ABH shadows. I think that their formula is a little inconsistent. We went from Modern Renaissance, which was a beautiful palette, blended well, had super pigmentation, to Subculture, which I love, but had a problem with the fact that they were pressed pigments. They fell apart in the pans. Mine doesn't seem to have a problem, but I remember watching, you know, some of the bigger YouTubers out there go in lightly with their brushes and tear a shadow apart. And then we go to Prism, which I actually love as well. A little bit better, but kind of the same problems as Subculture. Then we have Soft Glam, which I didn't get. I've heard it is amazing, but I didn't get that one because I was just like, meh. I didn't really care for that palette. And then we have Norvina, which I feel like there's a lot of shadows in here that are really great and a lot of them that really aren't. This one and this one here are more satin than they are matte, and I think that they would perform better as matte shadows, or you can place them in better places on your eyeballs, on your eyelids if they were wholly matte, but they're not. They're just kind of more satin than they are matte, and they are super, super grabby in the pan, which makes them really difficult, honestly, to blend into any look. I use this one on my crease a lot. I use this one as a transition a lot, and like they mattify at some point, but they go on and they're hard to blend because they're a little more grippy than the other ones. This shadow just likes to fall apart. This one also just likes to fall apart, and you can barely see it. I mean, it is this shadow here. You can barely see it in your eye looks. It doesn't help any eye look, if I'm being honest. And for something that was boasted as a purple palette, I mean, come on, the exterior packaging is purple. These two colors really are the only two purples that you have, and this one is more of a periwinkle, so it's a little more of a blue. I'm not mad at this palette. I actually loved working with this palette, but I'm excited to move on to the next palette. So with that being said, we're going to get into my phone, and I use the Decide Now app that is on the Play Store. Danny, I believe, uses the same kind of app. I can't remember what her app is called, but she uses the same kind of thought process with her app. It's just like a Wheel of Fortune app that you can use to help you decide anything. It looks like this. You can put anything you want to in any one of these wheels, name your wheel, and spin it. So I put all of my palettes into this app, and it chooses a new palette for me every single week. What is this down here? So we are going to push the button, spin the wheel. This week's I'm actually kind of excited about this, is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. I'm sure every single one of you has seen that palette. I'm going to go get it real quick. I will be right back. All right, guys. This is my Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. This will be the palette that I use next week. I'm really excited about this palette because while there is, oops, there went that. While there is color in it, it is mostly also warm tones and neutrals. I have pulled some pretty awesome looks out of this palette before I knew what I was doing. So I'm pretty excited to use this palette next week. I hope that you guys are also excited to come watch me go through this palette next week. I probably will not swatch it just because there are so many shadows in this palette, but I'm excited. I hope that you guys like this video enough that you're considering giving it a big thumbs up, and I hope that you want to join me next week, and you might even be considering subscribing to my channel because you liked this video or me so much that you think you want to see more of me. I really appreciate everybody coming and clicking on my video. I know that you don't have to, so it warms my heart 100% that you do. And until next time, guys, bye-bye. Do you guys love this crazy grow out going on in my hair? Holy crap. I definitely need to recolor for sure. But here's the thing, I know I'm getting an influencer box that has like a root touch-up kit in it, and I want to be able to try that, so I've let it go, but it's driving me bonkers. So it's got a little bit of that gray, a little bit of my natural, like, more tawny color, a little, yeah. It's beautiful, beautiful.